Greetings, everyone. This is Reverend Chris. I gave up on trying to get into the shower and do anything else before I came in to do this to you. I thought I was going to be able to do this morning. I wound up going back to bed. So here I am. Once again, I'm a mess. So you are seeing a visual, but that also serves a great purpose because when I do this way without the video, it actually uploads so much faster so I can get this to you. And it was important for me to get this to you rather than to get all prettied up and looking all put together. I don't know how these people that do this week to week um, and deal with these same ascension antics of the universe that we are all dealing with manage to do it week in, week out. That just is not me. So you're looking at this visual again, but it is a very important visual because it really applies to what's been going on. Um, Last week, if you were in my divine interventions group and some other places, I pointed you to an article that um, Patricia Brielle Moore put on Facebook. She is a dear friend of mine, another one who works in the higher realms of alchemical creation and manipulation. She works with the Divine Mother Earth and has been working really hard. I mean, really hard. You have no idea what she sacrifices for the work that she's doing. But there were codes that were released, very important light codes that were unlocked. That there were a lot of forces in the universe didn't want that to happen because those light codes that were unlocked actually unleashed a flood of divine energies and light and divine love throughout the planet to, boy, I don't even know how to explain it, but to fully inform the entirety of the structure of the planet with new encodings and instructions and to illuminate and activate the divine encodings for the planet. And as that all happens, because we are connected to this planet, everything coming, from within the planet, from its core, radiates outward to us in this huge wave, and it's coming in different waves. So it started last week, and it wasn't as strong last week. We knew it was there, but it wasn't as overpowering. But beginning on Saturday, combined with a solar flares, with our being in a journey through the photon belt as a planet and the continuation of these divine energies flooding our systems, it got pretty intense. And so what I'm here today to talk about is what the heck was that all about? I mean, we were sort of knocked for a loop, and I can tell you from talking to many of you, y'all had a lot of the same symptoms I did. Totally drained. We felt like dish rags. I described it as feeling like a deflated air mattress, just nothing. And we all had mental symptoms of varying degrees, but a common thread was kind of a dizziness, but it wasn't, it was even, it was like as if my description of it and feeling of it was kind of like um, after that first glass of wine, you get kind of lightheaded and a little bit disoriented mentally. You're not dysfunctional, but you feel it when it hits. And that's kind of what it was like, but it wasn't just a hit, it was continuous. Um, and a lot of people said it, and it continued when you were laying down. It wasn't like it was just up and conscious thing is when you were laying down, it was still just as much. You felt this, I don't know, vertigo kind of experience. Um, and that is very key to what I'm imparting to you today. There's a big reason for that. So what's been going on for us? I was given the heads up that yesterday, Monday, this is Tuesday, March 2nd. I was giving the heads up that we were in a really steep acceleration of the ascension timeline had been initiated. And that's what really caught us off yesterday. I mean, we all knew yesterday was like the absolute most intense of what we've been going through. And that was the ascension timeline accelerating. Why is that? Well, the ascension timeline was accelerated, pushed forward a bit, to bring in and integrate into, not to bring in because we've already received these, but they are being to support the emergence of the Christed consciousness programming that has already been installed in our systems. For us to become aligned with and attuned to the Christed consciousness programming, because that is necessary for us to be able to process and evaluate the things that are about to happen on this planet, for us to evaluate them from a place of divine love and the Christed consciousness tenets, um, rather than a place of the ego mind. Big, see, you hear I'm getting the big yes on it. You can even hear me. It was just like, yes. Okay. So it's total integration of the Christed consciousness. Are we going to be aware of the Christed consciousness as a separate thing? No. That's what integration means. It becomes a part of us that we're not necessarily even aware of accessing separately. Although if we have turned on our mindfulness, we may notice it, that there is a difference at the way that we're seeing things or interpreting them now versus the ways we may have done before. And I'll go into that further. There's so much being done here, and it's amazing. It's amazing. All right. So this is also that we can see everything that's going on through the lens of divine love. And there are a lot of things getting ready to happen in the physical plane. Big, big, huge yes on that. I don't even know what they all are. I just know that there's a big shakeup getting ready to happen in the physical plane. And we need to be centered, grounded, and seeing it from a higher perspective than the ego mind. Being able to interpret and evaluate these things from that higher perspective of divine love, and to see how divine love is playing into all of the things that are soon to be happening around us. And so now don't go into fear. Oh my God, what's happening? No, that's exactly why we are being infused with having this activated, having us attuned to this elevated state of being through these infusions of this last week, so that we don't go into that. And that's part of what's going on. All right. So, again, I've done this before, but for those who haven't listened, and even those who have, I'll give a bit of a refresher about what does it mean seeing things through the eyes of divine love or Christed consciousness. Divine love is applied equally to all things. Equally. The murderer gets as much divine love as the saint. That's a hard concept to understand, but that's because that's an ego, lower mind concept and construct. Because the lower mind, the ego mind, cannot love everything different equally. All right. It applies judgment, not discernment, judgment on these things. The higher mind connects to and accesses Christed consciousness through the divine self to look at this through the eyes of divine love, to apply equally divine love to both, to any situation, all situations. So, what does that mean in reality? So, let's take an example. Say you have a thief, and the thief breaks into someone's house and steals their TV. They find him, they arrest him, he or her, whichever, this person, and they are charged with burglary and breaking and entering, and they are taken to the divine courts, divine judgment through the eyes of divine love. So, divine love is applied equally to all, but there are some things that it has to honor because we are in a free will universe and because we have divine soul contracts for each of our incarnations. What are we here to do? What do we need to learn? What is the growth factor? What is our soul path? So those are the free will and our soul path are the two things that are come into play when we apply divine love and we say, okay, if it was part of the victim's soul path to experience loss and violation of their space, right, through the breaking and entry of the home, it was part of their soul path to experience this so that they could clear it and release it from their lives and their soul experience, their soul path. Then in that sense, if you apply divine love, the burglar, the thief, did nothing wrong because they were part of that experience. The divine contract was honored through that thief's actions. If it was part of the thief's, in a different, say the opposite scenario, if it was part of the thief's contract to experience limitation, right, to experience the secular justice and the limitation of the lack of freedom, the loss of freedom through imprisonment, and work through that, then divine love would have been applied to accommodate that soul what's the word I'm looking here for? But that part of their soul path, to accommodate that part of their path, to say, okay, this was your path, so here you go. That's how it works. It also works too. The other thing that that divine love has to take into account is agreements that we make, whether they are conscious agreements or not. One of the prime examples for this is sexual intercourse. And a lot of you are going to have your eyes rolling and say, "Oh yeah, right. Here she goes. The old minister going to give us a lecture on this." No, it has nothing to do with it. I have no right to limit to lecture anybody on sexuality, one way or the other. But what I'm telling you is from a point of divine law and divine love, sexual intercourse is a creative endeavor. Sexual intercourse unleashes creative energies. And when we agree to have, and I'm saying agree here, I'm not talking about times when we don't agree, when we are taken by force, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Um, but when we agree to sexual intercourse, then we also have then contracted to be responsible for anything that is created as a result of the energy that is unleashed during that intercourse, whether it is a human life or whether that creative energy is fueling something else. This is why so many dark rituals use sexual intercourse and energy as part of their rituals, because they're siphoning off that creative energy to manifest things. So, anytime we have any kind of an agreement, conscious or unconscious, we are bound to that agreement in the eyes of divine love. And anything that we do that goes against that agreement counts against us. So we have things, having said that, there are things coming that we're going to be looking at, and through the eyes of ego and judgment and our own personal experience and belief sets, we're going to look at and say, "Oh my God, that's wrong. That shouldn't be happening. How can that be happening? No, 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 that person doesn't deserve that." Or, "Whoa, I don't think so." But when you are looking through the eyes of divine love and the Christed consciousness, you can look from that higher place to see that there are things in place that have to be honored, whether they are agreements or soul contracts, or whether it is a free will choice that has to be taken into account. Now, if the free will choice goes against a soul contract, then there are consequences for that. We are responsible for everything that we create. Period. End of story. Whether it's through our thoughts or our actions, our emotions, we're responsible for that. So get ready. There are things coming into play that are going to require us to be looking from that point of view. However, it's not going to be as hard as it sounds like it would be, based on our current and past experience with looking around us and judging what's going on around us, trying to figure it out, trying to put it in place, trying to decide is it right or wrong, getting emotionally attached to these things and driven by them. So the second part of this isn't just about the Christed consciousness. Remember, I have used the words lower mind and higher mind, and I've done that on purpose, and divine self. And this keys into the reason that we have all had this vertigo type feeling in our heads for 2 days, maybe three, depending, I mean, it started slow, but boy, yesterday was the crescendo of that. And it had to do with, as part of aligning with the Christed consciousness, integrating that, allowing it to emerge into our thought processes. There also was the activation of our higher minds. And when I say higher minds, people don't understand. A lot of people don't understand. You have a lower mind and a higher mind. Lower mind is the ego mind. The ego mind, the lower mind, is in charge of the physical plane and everything. It receives information only through the five senses by physical means, only what it can experience through the physical body and the physical senses. That's the level and the limit of responsibility for the lower mind. However, we have allowed it to just control our entire beings. Well, guess what? The authority of the higher mind has been activated. Our divine selves, the part of us that is in charge of and evaluates and attaches and connects to the non-physical, the upper chakras, the above the heart chakras, that expresses through the non-physical and affects in non-physical ways. And we say, well, what does the throat chakra have to do with that? Well, that's our place of power and our self and our place of authentic expression. Sound. Hello, sound. Sound is a non-physical energy. We experience in the physical, but it is an energetic output, all right, that we direct through our throats and our mouths. So the divine self has been anchoring into us for quite a while and coming down into us, all right, descending into us. The higher mind, which is the territory of the divine self, has now been in the process of completing full anchoring into our mental processes, which gives our higher mind primacy in our mental systems and gives it the seat of mediating, right? Saying, okay, this is what the ego mind is saying, the way it wants to react. The higher mind is saying, well, let's look at this for a minute. Um, does this require this reaction? And whether we're going to do anything about it or not. It may be just saying, okay, just quelling the ego voice. Now, that's part of the other experiences that we've been having is the ego mind has not been happy about this at all because it's been disconnected from a lot of places it was connected to. Big yes on that. I'm just getting big confirmation on it. Um, so there is one of the things that this does for us, and I don't know about you, but I know I've been praying about this for a long time, is to be disconnecting us from the emotional control elements used by the control matrix and those who are administering that matrix to control us through emotions and negative thought patterns. This is going to get in the way of that. This is going to be the boundary through which that control is not allowed to pass. It gives us freedom from those controlling factors in a big way. Now, it's not total because there are still things that we're dealing with in our reality that we have down the road yet to change, like electronic interference, encodings embedded in our systems through electronic means. Just by sitting here looking at this screen you're looking at or listening to my words through the medium you're listening. Um, those things still are going to be implanted in us, but our higher mind is still going to be in charge of deciding what to do with them. So, this is a huge sea change in our evolutionary process to move from the domination of the lower mind, the ego mind, over everything into our higher mind being the primary adjudicator of our responses. This is what is happening and the process that is working its way through us. This is a huge step in the ascension because without this, we cannot complete ascension. That is a necessary part of ascension. So, what else has been going on along with this? All right. We have been, it's like we felt this time squeeze with this acceleration of the um, ascension timeline. We felt this squeeze and we literally have been squeezed to release from us all of the stuff that we were holding on to that we're still attached to, all of the ego stuff. Those are the things that have been pulled out, unplugged, detached, released, dismissed, unmanifest, erased, deactivated, you name it, whatever you want to call it, in any number of ways. These things have been dissolved away from us. That's been part of that process also, that squeezing process and the disorientation process, because all of these things are unplugged. It's like, okay, we had all of these pathways that were telling us certain things and doing things for us, and now they don't exist. What are we doing? And they got to get all plugged back in to new pathways representing and guiding us to truth, divine love, divine precepts, and Christ consciousness. And the other big thing that was going on yesterday and is continuing, but yesterday was a big day for it, is the transition from 3D lower mind into 5D higher mind, and the different 5D operating system as compared to the 3D operating system. Yesterday was a dividing line. I was called to uh, attach some people that I know to the Christed consciousness matrix yesterday, because without that connection, they were not going to pass into and remain in the 5D operating system. And they needed to be there. So I would ask and suggest that you take some time to check in with your higher guides, or better yet, I'm going to ask right now that all of you listening to me, that your guardian teams, if it is your soul path to be part of the 5D moving forward and the Christ existing in the Christed consciousness matrix and operating system, that all of you are connected to the Christed consciousness matrix and imprinted with it. Ho. So I always try and provide you something besides just information when I do these videos so that you can um, derive benefit, direct benefit, spiritual benefit, metaphysical benefit from it, and evolutionary benefit from it. And that is one of those things. So now, if you are hearing this, and I ask that this be applied to any family or relatives as well, beloved ones, that are meant to cross into 5D and remain together. And I will let you know right now that some of you are probably aware of this because of your own experiences. There are some families who will be split, one on one side of the divide, one on the other side of the divide. And there's going to be some kind of a tandem, side by side existence for a while. I don't have all the details of it. I don't want all that in my mind right now. When I get a sense of it, um, if I do, I will share it with you. So, this is what I came here to share with you today. There was so much that has been going on, what we've been going through metaphysically, spiritually, in our physical and light bodies throughout our timelines. All of it has been affected by what we have been receiving in the last few days. So hang on, hold tight. It is settling down. It is being centered throughout us. Um, and we are being aligned and attuned to it. I would say that my best um, suggestion for you going forward from here is to start noticing your responses to things. Are you being triggered as easily or as strongly by things as you were previous to this? Are you being triggered by these same things that you were triggered by before? And I would suggest, and what I'm just receiving is if you are still being triggered by some things, it means that this still remains as a soul issue for you to work through and release. And that the longer you delay in releasing it, the more miserable you're going to be in this higher vibrational operating system. Period. End of story. These things need to be addressed. But the good side of that is that if you're still getting triggered and you go to address them, you can address them from that higher perspective of the Christed consciousness and divine love that you didn't have available to you before, unless you were really had already walked a good part of that path. If you want assistance working through these things, and I know there are many that have these things to work through and are kind of at a point where they're like, I just don't know what to do anymore. I've done everything I know how to do and it's still here. Help me. You know where I am. Give me a shout. My email address is down below. And take some time to like this video, subscribe to the channel so that you get what I have to give, the updates and the information and the spiritual nuggets that you receive. And if you find value in what I do, I would certainly appreciate any donations and energy exchanges that you would care to send my way. I'm not supported by anybody else, right? This is what I do. I don't charge for these videos. I don't charge you for what I do. But if if I have an appointment with you, that's a different story. But these things that I give for free to put out there for your benefit. If you're receiving benefit and you would like to return the favor, there is a link to PayPal. Um, Both PayPal me and my email address through PayPal that I would welcome your generosity through. So, that being said, I leave you here now. I love you all. I thank you for being with me here, for hanging into the end. Spread the word, share this video, help everybody to understand what they've been through, what it means to them going forward. I don't have the details on exactly what's coming. Like I said in my last little video, Gabriel gave me a big heads up that, yeah, there's some major stuff on its way. Um, that's going to involve a lot of things in the physical plane. We just have to buckle up, strap in, and put on our divine self, divine love consciousness helmet and look through those goggles. That being said, I leave you here this day so I can get this uploaded to you as quickly as possible. See you soon, and hopefully by the next time I do a video, I will be more put together and presentable so that my very appearance doesn't offend you, or I don't, I'm not viewed as being impolite. So hopefully it won't offend you anyway, because we should all be beyond that. But this was just easier today. Have a good one. Be well. Integrate. Listen to your body. Listen to your spirit. And tune in to your divine team. Love you all. Bye.